Hello and welcome to the Self-Recording Band podcast. I'm your host, Benediktine. If you are new to the show, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching if you're on YouTube. If you are already a listener, thank you for coming back. If you got any value out of these past episodes that you've been listening to or watching on YouTube, please make sure to share it with your friends. Take a screenshot of the episode, share it on your socials, tag us at Malcolm Owen Flood, at Benediktine, at the Self-Recording Band, and please tag our guests too. Help us spread the word because this really helps us find more people like you, help more people like you make better records because this is what we do here, right? Speaking of better records, if you want better mixes that stand out from the crowd, mixes that sound better than 90% of all the mixes out there, then go to the selfrecordingband.com/standout mixes and grab our brand new mixing guide completely for free. It's a video tutorial plus a checklist that shows you the number one thing that absolutely matters most in mixing. And it's the one thing that also everybody seems to ignore. Nobody does it. And if you do, you will be in the top 10% of all mixes. Guaranteed. If you take that advice, if you practice that, if you take it seriously, even though it might sound basic, if you do that, your mixes will stand out because most people get so hung up on like details and they go down rabbit holes and they try to fix their problems with fancy plugins and all of that. But nobody does what really matters. The pros do it. They never skip. There's the saying like the pros never don't do the basics, right? So that's true. The pros never skip that. But most amateur mixers completely ignore it. Don't be one of them. Be smarter. Watch that video. Go through that checklist and implement that process into your mixing. And I promise you, your mixes will be better instantly. Go to the selfrecordingband.com/standout mixes and download that completely for free. Now on to today's episode. As you can see, I'm alone today. Usually I'm not alone. Usually I would introduce my co-host, Malcolm Owen Flood, right now. He's not here with me because I have another guest today. And that guest is Greg Bohemen from Canada. He's a bluegrass musician, an awesome human being, and he's a member of the Self-Recording Syndicate, our coaching program. I've been working with Greg for a year now. I've been guiding him. I've been giving him feedback. I've been coaching him. And his results and his transformation is mind-blowing. So this interview has been recorded actually half a year ago. So right now it's January 2023. The interview is from June 2022. But still, his transformation in that first half year was incredible. That's why we did this interview. And now his transformation since then has been even more impressive. So it's actually cool that this is an older interview because that way you can listen to the interview, hear him talk about the transformation he went through. Then you can go to Spotify, search for Greg Bohemen, and listen to the two songs that he just released in December 2022. One is called Live for Today. One is called Virtual Christmas. Check that out. It's amazing stuff. Go there, check that out. Maybe find some of the older music he published, and then you'll sort of get the idea of like that whole transformation, the journey, where he started, where he is right now, and what it took to get there. I'm so excited to have him on the show because I love working with him. He's a sponge. He takes in knowledge constantly. He applies. He asks questions, and he's just a great human being. And that's all I have to say about Greg. And I really appreciate you coming on the show, Greg. And I'd love for people to check out your music. So one final thing before we dive in. This interview has been recorded through Zoom, so it's not the best audio and video quality. Not as good as you're used to from the show. My apologies, but I think it's still good enough and you will hear and see everything clearly. And now here comes my interview with Greg Bohemen. And have fun. Hey everybody, Benediktine here, and I'm here with one of my favorite coaching students. His name is Greg Bohemen. I hope I pronounced your name correctly. Is it Greg Bohemen?
Right. Yeah, Bohemen.
Greg is great to have you, Greg. Greg is a musician and songwriter from Canada. Who is recording his own music, and also what I found really interesting, you're building a community for musicians around bands in your area. So that was part of your story that I always found really inspiring and cool to hear, and maybe you can talk more about that today. So when we started working together, you were a very talented musician, but you were also in the early stages of like your recording journey and like learning how to record, mix and master and all of those things. So you were working from an untreated room with minimal gear. You had the talent, you had the songs, but you were kind of unsure how to actually capture all of that correctly and whether or not this was good enough and all of that. But since then, I got to say, Greg put in a shit ton of work, turned into a sponge, basically, soaked up all the knowledge and advice, and was always open for new ideas and things to try. And now he's built out his own home studio, as you can see in the background, created processes and better workflows for himself. And he keeps me sending mixes that I think are phenomenal and a night and day difference from where he was not too long ago. So I hope you agree with all of that, Greg, but I really feel that way. I really feel like it's a night and day difference to where we started. And just looking at the background there, how you've built out your home studio and all of that just makes me happy. So thank you for doing this today. Thank you for coming on. And
it's been a long journey, but thanks for all your time. You've guided me throughout the way. And like you said, like when I started, I just recorded with like a USB mic, GarageBand, and very simple. And I thought, oh, cool. I found the keys to the castle. It's easy. Everyone can do it. And then discovering your podcast and stuff, I realized that, oh, wow, there's so much to learn. And then it's overwhelming when you check on YouTube. There's millions of videos of everything and they all claim to be the best. Your podcast proves that the longevity of it is like everything's there. And when you started the Academy, I was first to jump on. I was so excited. And the way you lay it out in different terms, that like the whole structure, the plan of it just really helped give me something to aim for and follow. I still have a lot to learn. The hardest part for me was really just juggling work and music, trying to make ends meet. And I was worried that I wouldn't have enough time to dedicate to this, but just following the steps, it really helps. And honestly, like I wish 6 months ago when I started the coaching, I wish I would have quit my job and just did this full time and get full benefit of it, because it's really, I would have progressed more. It's just, it was not my own issues, my own life that got in the way.
Normal life.
And I'm still moving ahead, but that's honestly like you're so generous with your time. And anytime there's a question, it's always like you answer right away. And awesome. That's what's great about this program.
Thank you. So let's get back to the situation real quick before you decided to join the Academy and then the coaching program, because these are two different things. As you said, you were one of the first people to join the Academy, which is our flagship online course. But this is not a coaching program. This is just an online course that is well structured and all of that. But you don't get the personal one-on-one coaching and the guidance and all of that. So you did that first, and then you jumped on the coaching later. Now, before you decided to join any of that, like when you were on your own, like give me a rundown of what things looked like for you as a self-recording artist. You kind of touched on that already, but how did you record back then, and what did you do, and what did this look like?
Well, actually, to backtrack everything, I won this contest where the winner was going to have the song recorded professionally and play on the radio. And I've never really won anything. So I won this contest, super excited. I got in touch with the producer and he's like, it's not really good enough for the radio, right? Like my reputation is going to be on the line. And he's like, it was a songwriting competition, not a singing competition. Let's get a whole different band to do it. And my ego was like, screw you. Like, I'll do it myself then. And that's what pushed me to learn how to record. And I had a few other songs kicking around. And I just first said, I didn't know the interface. I just USB mic and just put them together and just learn. So that's how it really started. But then seeing your podcast, it was just, there's so many steps of different stuff. And a lot of it went over my head. I didn't understand what you're talking about. I was still listening. So I think that's why. And then when you announced that you have an Academy, I was like, that could help me kind of guide me a little bit. But even then, when I joined the Academy, I kind of fell off because summer hit and then I got busy. So I went through a few modules. I kind of like, whatever, gave up. And then it was in the fall, I think you're announcing the coaching and we met up again and you're asking, so how's it going? I'm like, well, I'm not really done. I guess I kind of fell off and got busy. And I think, so that's probably the progression, how that happened. And then you were just kind of reminding me of like, well, I can do this coaching. And I was saying, I'm not good enough, Benny. Like, I don't have enough time to do that. Yeah. And I think that's why like, well, I guess you liked the songs I was doing and how motivated I was at first until I kind of, it's not like I fell off. It's just the summer gets so busy. I'm sure for everyone, especially as a musician, like we were busking, we're playing outside all the time. And it was just when the fall came, I was kind of getting back into it anyway. And you kind of just reminded me of like, well, this is available, and reassured me that it's not about like, there's no prerequisite level of skill to have this coaching. But even within the coaching, I came in guns blazing. Oh yeah, I like to have thematic songs, like Christmas songs, St. Patrick's, everything. That's just the way my brain works. I get excited because it's in the season. And even then I'm like, oh hell yeah, I do a Christmas song right away. And I think it was like beginning of December even, I told you that. And you're like, well, dude, like you won't have time. Like, of course I do. Like I did the other album in a month. No. And sure enough, I didn't have time. And then that hit. So that was like our first task. And then I realized, oh shit. And as soon as January hit, I'm like, no, I'm done. I'm done with that song. And you're just following along. You're letting me take the lead. It's my projects. And then it was like the next one. It's like, St. Patrick's song. Boom, jump in. And like I always had different stuff like that. And you kind of helped me like, hey, like settle down, pick one, finish it. And then in the meantime too, you taught me how to treat the room first. And I've thought like, that's overkill. I'm just like a little DIY guy. I don't need treated studio, but what a difference it makes.
If you would have been at the point where I would be like, yeah, you got all the basics, you got everything you need, and now we can just crush the song in a week or so, then I'd be all for it. But I knew that like a couple of like 2 or 3 weeks or 4 weeks before Christmas, even if we got it done, chances are to get it on Spotify and on playlists and all of those things were pretty minimal, if not like it was impossible to get it out there in time for it to hit on Christmas. And so I knew that this would be very difficult, if not impossible in general. And then you also had so many things that we had to do first, because you in order for it to become a really high quality product, so that's why I was hesitant to do this. At the same time, I also don't want to slow you down, or like don't want to, like I love the enthusiasm and all of that. So this is always the balance that we have to juggle there. The thing about you, because the reason why I reached out to you in fall basically was because I knew that you had the passion and the ability to like really set aside time for this, to really take this seriously. Of course, life gets in the way, especially in the summer and all of that. But I could see already that you were willing to put in the work, that you were taking the advice seriously, you were open to ideas. And I just knew that if you just have some guidance and somebody to give you feedback and to hold you accountable and all of that, you can do great things. And that's why I reached out to you. And yeah, so I'm so glad we did this. Now, specifically, also part of that was already answered kind of, but what made you take the plunge to join the program? Was it that sort of guidance and accountability aspect?
Yeah, really. And just seeing like, what am I missing here? What's the blockage? Like, and also just having you guide me through everything. And yeah, that's really, and just having like the one-on-one is so valuable. Like just to be able to reach out and like, especially at first, like unlimited coach, like and like, wow, I couldn't believe that, because I know you're a busy guy. And just the fact, and the system, the way you have it set up with the app where you just choose the date, we don't have to actually like email back and forth. It's like, what works for you? And even with the time change, like you're in Germany, I'm in Canada, it's 9 hours difference. And it's still, there's never been a problem. We always make it work somehow and find times that work. Yeah, that's really it.
Perfect. Now, roughly, when did we start? We started in October,
November, I think, something like that. Yeah.
Okay, so let's say like seven months or so into this, 6 to 7 months, roughly half a year later now. What do things look like now? How do you feel about your skill level, about the quality of your recordings, about your home studio setup? Any wins worth talking about? Anything particular maybe that made the biggest difference, or like just go ahead, like whatever you feel about that.
The biggest thing is confidence, really. Just confidence, and not just shooting in the dark. Now it's like, now I understand, okay, this worked for the last one. And every song, even though I'm working, I realized there's way more steps than I thought. And especially like just the initial tracking of it. Usually it's just whatever, I can change it later, but just to know like to hit certain milestones to be able to move on. Before I'd be going all over the place, throw on some EQ because I think that's what I'm supposed to do, and go back, oh wait, that sucks, and redo this. And it just didn't make sense. Now there's like a logical order to what I'm doing. And just that, it's like, it's empowering. You feel like, okay, I'm confident. I don't know exactly what to do, but just a rough idea of like, okay, I'll follow this roadmap. It worked last time. It's not the golden rule, but let's start with that and then kind of pivot from there. And I still have a lot to learn, but it's just, at least it's to get to that point. It feels good. Yeah.
Yeah. How do you feel personally? Because we've been talking about this before this recording, actually. How do you feel about your recordings and mixes? Because I feel like you said confidence, but I could sense that you were still feeling like maybe you're not quite there yet. And I really think, I mean, you are more confident than you were in the beginning. And I really honestly think, that's why I said it in the beginning, is that it is a night and day difference. Like I remember listening to the first couple of demos you sent me, and even concepts like panning things left and right and stuff like that were kind of new, and we had to go through these things. And now when I listen to mixes you sent me, I'm like, yeah, that's perfectly in the ballpark. Like it's like the balance is there. There's nothing standing out that kind of is distracting. There's no annoying resonances. The room sound is cool. The mic positioning seems cool, like little tweaks here and there, but this is a song. I can focus on the song and not ever think about the recording, which is ultimately what we want, right? So I have that feeling when I listen to your songs now. So I just want to know, do you feel like that too? How do you feel about the sheer quality of your recordings compared to like a year ago? And be honest here, like if you don't feel like that, just say it.
The recordings, that's actually for sure, up until the mixing. And I know that's a lot to take on. Like we're 7 months in and I'm already like teaching you the basics of mixing. And that takes like decades. So I think for mixing, I'm still very shy with it, with the compression and stuff. But again, that's just, maybe I don't hear it as much, or maybe, yeah. Anyway, I think that might just be it, where it's just the confidence up until the mixing part, like the balancing that. Now I love it. I feel super confident. I know like adding doubles and just choosing different instruments for sure. But definitely mixing, I'm still lacking lacking confidence in that sense, but that's normal. Like I'm still so new to it.
That's why this program is a 12-month thing where we'd really take time to get the basics right, and then we dive into the more advanced stuff. We don't cut corners and skip things. So you just started your mixing journey. Basically, you got the recordings right. You built out your studio. We did everything the right way, and now it's on to mixing. And I feel like you've already made progress there too. I really like the mixes you sent me, but I think just like it took time for you to build confidence when it comes to recording, it takes a little time for you to build confidence when it comes to mixing. But that will be the same sort of journey, and I can't wait to go that with you, together with you, and guide you. Now, how would you summarize the benefits you experienced from the program, like everything, the academy, the community, access to the courses, the calls, anything else? Like in your case, what are the benefits that stood out to you? How would you summarize those?
I like you touched on the community. That alone is so cool to have. Like, I feel like we're part of like a little club of like people share ideas all the time, and it's so cool. And like, there's the Facebook one, but also there's one for people from the academy, and I've made friends through that. People that live close and far, and we talk back and forth and send mixes and kind of just awesome. Trade off like that, like just privately. And then it's just having that community, and it's all people that are like so passionate and driven, because that's how we've found this this path. And some of them aren't part of the coaching, and it's just cool to kind of like, just share ideas anyway. And definitely how I would summarize it is that it's nice to be part of this community, basically, because I'm part of other communities too, and it's never the same. It seems like there's always like, it's about the money. When you just here, it's way more about sharing, and just the podcast shows that, like, so much free content that you're giving out, but it's just going that extra edge of like having the personalized journey and feedback. It really helps, especially for me, because it's not so much about like, I do a lot of bluegrass and like old time instruments, no drums, and so all of that is like kind of different than what you're teaching on the podcast, just because of sheer numbers. There's more people in the rock world, so it's cool to see you adjust to my situation, and that really helps me.
Yeah, I'm a sponge too, so I would never coach somebody where I'm like, I have no idea what this music is about, or I just don't understand it. I wouldn't do that. It's not something I work on every day, but I get the music, I get the instruments. I know how to record acoustic instruments. I've done it my whole life, and it's not so different. And I enjoy the genre, and it's also a challenge because it's not exactly my wheelhouse, like not the thing I do every day. So, and I'm a sponge myself. I like to learn things. So when I started work with you, of course, I did my part of learning too here, and I did the research, and I listened to a ton of bands in your genre, and I really wanted to understand what it's all about, and maybe if there's things that I may be missing, and so I could really help you. And I enjoyed it a lot. I discovered new things through it, and so this is also something that's super exciting to me, and I'm glad I could help. And honestly, even doing the research and comparing that to what you do, that this gave me more confidence, so that I was really sure that what you do is something special here and something great, and that you as an artist just are super talented, because compared to other artists, even in like great artists in that genre, you are up there. And like you're really, it's like that. And you just need to know how to package it all and like how to make it into a final product. That's what we're doing here together, but you have the talent. So I enjoyed that whole journey with you too. All right. So what would you tell someone who's on the fence about joining the program? There could be multiple reasons for that. But as I said before we were recording this, I've talked to a couple of people, or like a ton of people actually now, who were hesitant to do anything like that, not just this program, but anything, because of limiting beliefs that they have, because they think they will never be good enough. Just like you talked about the confidence thing. They just don't know if it's at all possible, and they have a busy life, and they feel like they're not talented enough anyways, and nobody cares about their music or whatever. So they don't really believe that they can accomplish anything recording themselves. So what would you say to people like that? You having also a busy life and having those same struggles maybe.
So, like, how valuable is your music to you? That's the I see. Because to me, like, it's so easy to get caught up in the world of this weird hamster wheel of like you working to just pay the bills, and like takes the back burner, the music. And honestly, if it wasn't for the coaching, it would have been the same thing for me the past year. Mm-hmm. And that really helped me. So if it means a lot to you, just do it. And then for the money too. At first I was kind of thinking, the money side of it. But in hindsight, oh man, it's worth every freaking penny. Like, hands down, because, and even just the accountability, just that alone. And then it's like, just feeling like, at first I was like, I need to do this for Benny. And then I realized, no, I'm doing it for me, and you're helping me. I'm not doing it for you. And it's just, but at first that's what the mentality was. Like, I don't want to let Benny down, because you're always on it. As soon as I send a message, you're on it. So, but no, in the end, you're doing it for yourself. And just that, it's great. And I thought, like, because I know that the way it's set up is like 6 months intense, and then like 6 months of kind of in group. So I kind of thought after 6 months.
No, 3 months to 9 months.
Okay.
Yeah.
I couldn't even tell, because you've been so generous. So I thought, like, after that would be like, here, like once a month email. No, it's the same thing. I didn't tell the difference, because you're still on it. Even now, 7 months in, and it's So just that, it's like, it's so valuable. Anyone on the fence, just do it. Honestly, if you care about your music, if you want to move ahead, it's a no-brainer. And even though I felt that way too, trust me, at the beginning, everything, and it's worth it.
Awesome. Thank you so much. So glad to hear that. I mean, this is great feedback for me too. I mean, I'm talking to you about this because I want to help people who are on the fence, of course, but I want to inspire them. But I also want to have the feedback, of course, and and so that's so great to hear. And I'm glad you feel that way. And also the group coaching phase that we're now in, where you barely notice the transition. Like you're going to notice it very soon, because now we're going to up the frequency of the calls that we have. So we're going to do weekly calls now, regardless of there being questions or not, because usually we only do calls when there's questions. Now we're going to do weekly calls regardless of questions posted in advance. And you don't even know about that yet, Greg, but I'm going to post sort of how we do things in the future thing in our community. And I'm going to post like an agenda for those calls in there. And it's going to be so valuable. And the accountability aspect will now be beyond the one-on-one period in the beginning.
I know, I can't wait for that. I mean, I shouldn't be surprised at this point. You always bring in new ideas and different stuff that it's amazing. It keeps evolving. I'm so happy I was there from the beginning to see the evolution. And not even like you had a beta program before. And even when I jumped in, I was like, I still feel like I'm still part of that original batch, and it's cool to see the progression. And
Now back to your own music and your journey and all of that. So I mentioned at the beginning, you were building this community around you and around your hometown or your local scene, basically. Can you talk a little bit about that? Because I really find that to be super interesting. And I think that the community aspect is not only important in a coaching program like that, but it's important for musicians in general to surround themselves with other creative people, with like-minded people, with a creative scene, with I think that's so important, because especially these days, a lot of people and musicians spend their time alone in front of the computer creating their music, which can work. But I think there's so much value in going out there, doing it in real life with other musicians, having that sort of community and that real life interaction. And from what you were telling me, I just found that very fascinating and inspiring, because a lot of the people in the heavier music that I usually work in, they are these lone wolves, in their caves and doing their thing and not really connecting with people in the real world. And while some of them do really great things, I wish they would put themselves out more and connect with people. And there's so much benefit from that. And so please explain what you do there and what's great about it and what you love about it.
So I moved to the West Coast 5 years ago. So total other side of Canada. So as a new musician or a new person in the town, and I play upright bass. So I was just going to jams, playing bass, and it was a lot of open mics. So you'd go play 3 songs and that's it. But I found it was so competitive. People weren't collaborating. And sometimes I'd go there with my friends and they'd want a bassist, I'm up. But then my friend has to wait because he's the guitarist, and better players would come. And sometimes they wouldn't even get to play. Thought that's the change. And then I saw another bluegrass style. They do big circle jams where they're just going around and everyone plays a song. Oh, cool. And because it's acoustic instruments, it works great. I don't have to plug in. It's super easy to set up. So in 2018, I started hosting a jam at this pub, this brewery. Now, fast forward to now, I've done 119. This Sunday, we're doing 119 jams. So it's just gatherings. And then someone told me, you need to make it a business and make it legit.
You organize those jams, right? So you organize those jams, right? Yeah. Awesome. So great.
Just because there's so many guitarists, right? So for the bass, it's cool and then now that's how I met my partner. I'm with now Namira. She plays banjo. It's banjo and bass plus all these guitarists. And now finally we're getting paid, because before we're getting paid in drinks, whatever. It's hard to make money off. Now it's now we're finally getting paid. We have this cool gig once a month, Sunday afternoons, and it's the Cowichan Valley Grassroots Orchestra is the name of the business. So it's CV Grow is the acronym. So our slogan is CV Grow, musicians growing together. And it's just a cool way of just having community. And from there, I've built an email list.
You've started to build a business there. This is so great. And you know what's funny about that? that's so relatable, because we made almost 100 episodes of the podcast completely for free with the small, we had the Academy launch, but that was a small thing and our audience wasn't that big. And it was a couple of bucks, but it was not a real business. I was just, my full-time income was mixing. And I only started making money or turning this into sort of a legit business when I started the coaching last year. And so I had to do 100 podcast episodes before I got to that point. And you had to set up 109 of those jams before you got to that point, So that's a very similar journey. So it's totally relatable. And it just goes to show that you are just as passionate about this as I am about what I do. And we just love to do the things. And we didn't start because of the money or because of the business. But eventually, when you do something really valuable for other people, opportunities might present themselves. And I'm so glad to hear that you're actually doing that. I had no idea. Great.
Yeah. And the idea too is that there's so many creatives too that show up. And I want it to be hey, eventually I can record you, have this whole community of recording these people. I just haven't been there yet. Yeah. And again, it's all with the confidence to be to the point where I feel comfortable charging people to do this. I won't do it for free. And that's the ultimate goal. And it's all about the community and bringing people together. So,
yeah. So if I remember correctly, you've already recorded people from your circle there and people you in that sort of scene and community, right?
A little bit, just demos. But right now I'm kind of testing myself first. I'm kind of using myself as a guinea pig to see just to build the confidence. But I have people lined up. Everyone's bugging me now. Like, hey, when are you ready for me to? So soon. It's just I'm trying to find time for myself first. But
man, this is so exciting. We need to up the pace there. We need to get you up to speed because I'm excited for that, and I see the opportunity there, and we really need to make sure that you are getting those people into your home studio so you can create more together and more opportunities present themselves for you. So this is going to be the next step in your journey, honestly, after this coaching, that you need to spend even more time on music and make that your thing, and all that, everything around it. That's so awesome.
Because that would be the dream, to quit the job and just do this full time. And I feel like I'm on the edge where it's like everything's been lined up. That now
I hope your boss never sees this interview.
But that would be the dream. It's just lining everything up. That like if something happens, okay, jump ship. And then I know that's what it would really take to make that step, to have the time to record everyone. You have to go all in. And I'm sure that was the same struggle with you at first. Probably there's a point where you had to quit the job to dive in. And
it's a little different, but if I'm really honest, because I never really had a job. I never had a real job.
Oh, really?
Not a single minute. I started while I was still in school, and I thought I had the same confidence issues, and I thought I cannot make the living off of that. And I was really young and inexperienced. So what I did was I went to university, so sort of college in Germany, and I studied something, dropped out of college because I just never was there. All I did was music. I never did anything, and then I signed up for another class, another university sort of thing, and I dropped out again because all I did was music. And then after the second time failing there, I was like, I'm just going to go for it. I know I'm meant to do this. Like, this is my calling, basically. I don't want to do anything else. I'm not going to show up anyways. So I just jumped in, which was super scary. And also I wouldn't recommend doing that, people. So I was struggling for like 5 or 6 years where I really didn't know if I could ever make a living off of this, if this was ever going to work out. And then we got married, and then eventually we got our first child. And that was the point where I could have failed. Like I was like I wasn't sure, because then it was not only about me, it was about the family. But luckily that was around the time where things turned around and where I finally made it work. But it was the perseverance and the sheer will to just make that happen. And eventually it worked, but it could have failed miserably. So I'm not recommending this. But but it's still what you said. It's still what you said. You just gotta at some point decide that this is your thing and that you do it and you put all your focus on that. In my case, it was not quitting the job. In my case, it was not even starting the job. But it's the same thing. I decided that I'm gonna do this full time. But this is totally up to everybody. This is a very subjective thing, and there's no recommendation there. But I agree. If you want to do what you do now with the meetings and the music, the recording, you playing music yourself, recording other people, at some point, if you got to make a decision, of course.
Yeah, and to bring it back to the coaching, like I said, like I wish I would have quit my job into this full time, and I would have learned. And I'm still learning. Like even with the job, you're still able to learn a lot. And it's basically just saying that the course, it's not the course that's slowing me down. It's my life, and anyone can take what they will with this coaching. And it's like all the tools are there, and it's just putting the time and learning it. And
yeah, for sure. Yeah. Well, awesome. Now, if people are interested in what you do there with, let me see if I can pronounce that correctly, the Cowichan Valley Grassroots Orchestra. Is that what you?
Yeah. Cowichan Valley Grassroots Orchestra.
Cowichan Valley Grassroots Orchestra. Cool.
Yeah.
If people want to find out about that, what you do over there, how that all works, like your music and all of that, how can people find you? What's a good way to check that out?
Probably just on Facebook. Like I don't have too much. Yeah, I hate to say that. We're working on having our own website. I just don't know too much, but that's another thing on my to-do list that keeps taking the back seat. But just that, or more, maybe just to find me personally, and then we can connect whatever through that. And
where are you ultimately located? Like if people are close to you, like where can they go if they want to see a jam or a show or something you do,
or even they want to participate? Yeah, it's on Vancouver Island in Canada, and the whole idea is that my hometown is the Chateauguay Valley. It's in Quebec, the whole other side. So if I ever go back home, it's still the same acronym, CV It's the Chateauguay Valley. So I've set it up that like it could be coast to coast. It might expand. I don't know, but for now it's in Vancouver Island, the Cowichan Valley.
Awesome. Yeah. Very Very cool. Very cool. By the way, have you ever met Malcolm in real life? Because he's also on Vancouver Island.
No, we haven't met.
Vancouver Island, so it could. I mean, Canada is big, and probably Vancouver Island is bigger than I think it is. But maybe I don't know. Maybe you could at some point. This could work out. I mean, you've been listening to over 100 episodes now, and you're living pretty close.
Yeah.
So
he lives probably half an hour away from me. Like, awesome. No, we have to meet for sure at some point. Yeah.
Awesome. Great. Cool. Anything else you wanna say to people, or anything else you wanna say about your own music, or point people to, or anything that we might have missed?
No, I think that pretty much covers it. Yeah, I don't have much music to point people towards. I kind of took everything down. I'm waiting to re-record everything with the new knowledge I have. So I'll be posting it within the next year or two, probably. But I want to make sure again, it's the confidence thing, but I'm getting there.
I'm pretty sure it can be quicker than a year or two.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. No, definitely.
Yeah, soon.
In the next year. Yeah. Okay.
Cool. Thank you so much for taking the time to do this, Greg. I appreciate it a lot, and I really hope it inspires people and helps people with all of that and gives them confidence.
Thank you for all the help you've been providing throughout all this. Yeah. Appreciate it.
Thank you. All right, this has been my conversation with Greg Bohemen. Now, if you want to take your recordings to the next level, if you want to go through that same journey, that same transformation, if you want to learn a process that works for you, that is efficient and that actually leads you to results, that leads you to music that you're actually proud of, that you can't wait to put out into the world, music that you're excited about, music that connects with your audience. If you want to completely transform your skills and the results you're getting in your home studio, then go to the selfrecordingband.com/call and book your free first one-on-one call with me. It's completely free, no strings attached. Best case scenario, we end up working together and completely transform the way your music sounds. Worst case scenario, you get an hour of free coaching. All right. Sounds fair? Good. Go to the selfrecordingband.com/call, and I hope to see you very soon. Thank you for listening.